plants. We've talked about the leaves and the stems. So, got more to do. It's not November for us, but do keep in mind the endangered species presentations. What we'll do, given the issues if we're not able to be here in person, is just you'll put together a PowerPoint or some equivalent, doesn't matter what program you use, type of thing, and email it to me, and we'll deal with it that way. Okay, leaves, stems, how about roots? Roots can do a lot of things as well. Here's an example of the manioc plant. It's got roots specialized for storage, in this case primarily starch, and then people will dig them up and process them for food. If you've ever had tapioca pudding, that is made from the starch coming from these cassava roots. Often, roots actually extend more than the part of the plant we can see up out of the ground. They can be quite substantial. Roots do a lot of things. One, hold that plant in place. It doesn't want to fall over, so being well anchored. It also provides a way that the plant can obtain water and minerals and other nutrients from the soil, and then the plant is able to make use of this. Like we just saw, some roots are used for storage, whether starch like that one. Some roots store sugar, for example, sugar beets, a major source of sugar for people. The plant is storing sugar down in underground parts there. Water storage in some roots as well. A few other things that we'll see. One difference in the style between dicots, and that matter gymnosperms, they typically have a taproot where there's one main root, like in this dandelion here, and then there are branches coming off of that. Monocots, in contrast, characteristically have a fibrous root system where there are lots of roots all coming from the base of the stem, multiple ones about the same size. Again, the tip of a root is covered by what's known as the root cap. These are somewhat stronger cells providing protection for the growing part, the meristem behind them. Among other things, the root cap secretes chemicals, polysaccharides, that help the root be somewhat more slippery and help it to move through the dirt as it grows. It also is involved in the plant figuring out that way is down, that's the way to grow. Again, roots also characteristically have extensive trichomes, root hairs on them, and these provide lots of surface area to be able to pick up water and oxygen and minerals, other things that the plant needs from the soil around it. In plants that have wood up top where we can see, characteristically also have wood and secondary growth in the roots as well. Same style of production, that sideways growth where xylem is growing in, and as it does so it's pushing out the rest of the plant bigger around, and then phloem growing out from there. Plant has to maintain the water going up and down, so it needs both of those, and then also growth of root bark around the outside. Some roots above ground are known as buttress roots, kind of like the buttresses on a cathedral, say, and same sort of purpose. They help provide extra support for the tree and keep it from falling over with these larger roots extending out to the side. Some trees actually have roots coming from higher up. These are known as prop roots. For example, this pandanus tree again provides some additional support for the tree. Plants that grow in more swampy areas where we might get stagnant water, not much oxygen, sometimes have things sticking up known as pneumatophores or breathing roots. These allow oxygen to get down into the roots because they stick up out of the stagnant water area. Now again, plants are producing lots of oxygen in the leaves as they photosynthesize more than they need, so they're getting rid of extra oxygen up there. But plants are eukaryotes. They do have mitochondria. They use oxygen to process the sugars and other energy-containing molecules in order to make ATP. And to do that, they need oxygen, or else they'll be stuck with fermentation, which is not nearly as efficient. So, in particular, down the roots, they're not photosynthesizing, so they're not making their own oxygen, but they do need oxygen. And so, plants that live up in drier soil, well, they just get the oxygen from the air that's in the soil. But with this stagnant water in the soil, having these bits stick up is useful. Some plants, such as vines and epiphytes, plants that grow on top of other plants rather than in the soil, have roots that can grow and help hold them onto something. And since those roots actually can be in the air, they may even be green and do photosynthesize, like in this orchid here. As we know when talking about fungi, most plants have symbiotic relationships with fungi growing in the ground. And so these fungi, there's mycorrhizae, they are able to absorb water nutrients from the soil as well, extend thread-like hyphae through the ground quite widely, and then they can transfer some of this to the plants that they are associated with. Conversely, the plant can give some extra of the sugars and other things it's making photosynthesis to the fungi. So they're both sharing, benefiting from this relationship. In fact, many plants require the fungi to grow well. Similar relationships occur between certain bacteria living in the soil, which are able to capture nitrogen gas. Nitrogen gas is the commonest part of our air, but it's very inert. It's hard to get nitrogen gas to react with anything. But some of these bacteria have the trick. They can take the nitrogen from air and react it and turn it into things like ammonia. Once nitrogen is included in something like ammonia or nitrates or nitrites, that's a lot easier to do things with. And again, we need nitrogen in proteins. It's in DNA. So we need these nitrogen-containing chemicals. And so plants that have these nitrogen-fixing bacteria living associated usually with their roots are able to grow in soil that is otherwise poor in nitrogen. Nitrogen is one of the standard things you'd have in fertilizer to help your plants grow. But certain plants, such as the bean family, legumes, and a number of others, have relationships with these bacteria. Typically there are lumps on the roots where the bacteria grow, and the plant gets the nitrogen from the bacteria. The bacteria get a nice place to live. This is one reason why it's a good idea, instead of growing the same thing every year on your farm, to swap around and grow different crops from time to time. For example, quite commonly these days in the US, you'll see soybeans alternated with maybe corn or cotton or whatever else is being grown. Soybeans, they're a bean, legume, they have these bacteria living with their roots. So when you have a crop of beans, you're actually putting more nitrogen into the soil, extra from the bacteria. Now, next year, When you plant corn again, the soil's got more nitrogen. And then the corn uses up some of the nitrogen, and eventually you'll want the bean crop again. Plants need a variety of elements. Of course, all life is going to need plenty of carbon, hydrogen, oxygen. Nitrogen, potassium, sulfur, these are some key ones. Phosphorus. Nitrogen, potassium, and phosphorus are the three that are most commonly in short supply in soils and that you would want in your fertilizer. There are various others that plants need, but only small amounts. Most soils will have that. Occasionally those are an issue also. But when you grow a field, let's say a field full of corn, harvest that corn and sell it off someplace else, all the nutrients that went into the corn are now somewhere else. You've taken them away from the system. And so as you keep doing that year in, year out, the soil is going to lose the key nutrients and become infertile. And so fertilizing or other techniques to restore the soil become important. Also, paying attention to the soil. If you just leave bare dirt, it's easy for that to wash away. And the stuff on the top is the most nutrient rich. So it's the first thing to be gone. We lose a lot of soil that's washing away what would have been good dirt for growing plants and making the rivers and streams muddy. Not a good thing. Another challenge in dry areas, irrigation, bringing water in and spreading that on the field. Okay, helps your plants grow, but also it's dissolving minerals and then evaporating the water that doesn't go into the plants. And so you tend to build up those minerals, which are typically salts, making the soil salty. So that becomes a problem in areas with a lot of irrigation.